your complete guide to renting in Israel. So, you're thinking about renting in Israel? Whether you're making Aliyah here for work or just planning an extended stay, navigating the Israeli rental market can feel like quite the adventure. Don't worry though. I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know, from finding your perfect place to understanding those rental contracts that might seem written in another language, sometimes literally. First things first, the Israeli rental market has its own unique personality. Unlike some countries where everything moves slowly and formally, things here can happen fast, really fast. A great apartment can be snapped up within hours of being listed, so you'll need to be ready to move quickly when you find something you love. The market is incredibly diverse. In Tel Aviv, you'll find everything from tiny studio apartments to luxury penthouses overlooking the Mediterranean. Jerusalem offers a mix of modern apartments and historic stone buildings with that unmistakable character. And if you're looking at cities like Haifa, Beersheba, or Netanya, you'll generally find better value for your money compared to the central corridor. One thing that surprises many newcomers is that most rental apartments in Israel come unfurnished. And I mean really unfurnished. We're talking no kitchen appliances, sometimes no light fixtures, occasionally not even a water heater. But we'll get into all of that in a moment. Gone are the days when you had to rely solely on newspaper classifieds or word of mouth. Today, most of your apartment hunting will happen online, and there are several key platforms you should know about. Yad 2 is probably the most popular property website in Israel. It's comprehensive, updated regularly, and has listings from both private landlords and real estate agents. The interface is in Hebrew, but there's an English version too, though sometimes the translations can be a bit quirky. Facebook groups have become incredibly popular for apartment hunting. Search for groups like Secret Tel Aviv, Jerusalem Housing, or groups specific to the neighborhood you're interested in. These groups are gold mines. People post available apartments, sublets, and roommate situations. Plus, you can often get a real sense of what living in an area is like from the community discussions. Real estate agents, or what Israelis call real estate offices, are another option. Now, here's something important. In Israel, there's typically a finder's fee called DMAI tush, or agent's commission. This is usually 1 month's rent plus VAT, and it's paid by you, the tenant. I know it can feel like a punch to the wallet, but it's standard practice here. The advantage is that agents often have access to listings before they hit the public market. For English speakers, there are also platforms like Janglo and specialized Anglo groups on social media that cater specifically to the international community. These can be particularly helpful if you're new to the country and still working on your Hebrew. Let's talk about what unfurnished really means in Israel, because this catches a lot of people off guard. In many countries, an unfurnished apartment still comes with basic appliances and fixtures. Not necessarily here. A typical unfurnished apartment in Israel includes the walls, floors, and not much else. You'll usually get kitchen cabinets and bathroom fixtures, but the refrigerator, stove, oven, washing machine, dishwasher, those are generally your responsibility. Some apartments don't even include a dud shemesh, which is a solar water heater, or an electric water heater called a dud chashmal. Now, don't panic. Many landlords do include some appliances, especially in areas with high international populations. And there's a thriving secondhand market for appliances. Websites like Yad 2 and Facebook Marketplace are full of people selling used appliances, sometimes for surprisingly reasonable prices. Furnished apartments exist too, and they're becoming more common, especially in cities with lots of young professionals and international workers. These will cost more per month, but you save on the upfront costs and hassle of buying everything yourself. One more thing to note. Air conditioning isn't standard everywhere, and it's a big deal during Israeli summers. Some apartments have central air conditioning, others have individual units in different rooms, and some have none at all. Make sure you ask about this before signing anything, because installing AC units can be expensive and may require landlord permission. Once you've found some promising listings, it's time to start viewing apartments. Here's my advice. See as many as you can in a short period. This gives you a good sense of what's available at different price points and helps you understand the market. When you're viewing an apartment, don't just focus on the pretty parts. Check everything. Turn on faucets and make sure the water pressure is good. Flip light switches, open and close windows. Check for mold, especially in bathrooms and around windows. This is common in Israel's humid climate, particularly near the coast. Look at the condition of appliances if any are included. Ask about the building's water pressure, because in older buildings, especially on higher floors, this can be an issue. Check the cell phone reception too. Some older buildings with thick walls can be like signal black holes. Talk to neighbors if possible. They can tell you things about the building, the landlord, or the neighborhood that you won't learn from the listing or even from the viewing. Are there noise issues? Parking problems? Is the building committee active and responsive? And here's a pro tip. Visit the neighborhood at different times of day. That quiet street might be lovely at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, but turn into a nightlife hotspot on Friday nights. Or that busy area might actually be pleasant and quiet in the evenings. All right, this is where things get real. The rental contract, or Hoseh Shirut, is a legally binding document, and you need to understand what you're signing. Most rental contracts in Israel are for 1 year, though sometimes you can negotiate longer terms. Unlike some countries where month-to-month rentals are common, Israeli landlords generally prefer yearly contracts with serious commitments. The contract will specify the monthly rent, and here's something crucial. It will usually include an annual increase. This isn't the landlord being greedy. It's standard practice. The increase is typically tied to the consumer price index or a fixed percentage, usually around 3 to 5%. Make sure you understand exactly how much your rent will increase and when. The contract should clearly state what's included in the rent. Does it cover building maintenance fees, called va'ad bayit, or house committee fees? What about property tax, Arnona? Water, electricity, internet? In most cases, tenants pay their own utilities, but the base rent sometimes includes the building fees. Get this in writing and crystal clear. There will be a section about repairs and maintenance. Typically, minor repairs and maintenance are the tenant's responsibility, while major issues, like structural problems, plumbing disasters, or roof leaks, fall to the landlord. But minor and major can be interpreted differently, so it's worth clarifying some examples with your landlord before signing. The contract should address whether you can make changes to the apartment. Want to paint a wall? Hang pictures? Install shelving? Get permission in writing. Some landlords are flexible, others are very particular about keeping things exactly as they are. Now, here's something really important. Most rental contracts are written in Hebrew. If your Hebrew isn't fluent, get it translated or reviewed by someone whose Hebrew is strong, preferably a lawyer, or at least someone experienced with rental contracts. Don't just rely on the landlord's verbal explanation. I've seen too many people get caught out by clauses they didn't fully understand. Let's talk money, because the upfront costs of renting in Israel can be significant. First, there's the security deposit, called pikadon or cash deposit. This is typically equivalent to 1 to 3 months' rent. The landlord holds this as security against damages or unpaid rent. When you move out, you should get this back, minus any deductions for damages beyond normal wear and tear. But here's where it gets interesting. In addition to the cash deposit, many landlords require what's called bank guarantees or checks. You might be asked to provide post-dated checks for the entire rental period, 12 checks for a year-long contract, 1 for each month's rent. Or you might need to provide a bank guarantee, arava banket, which is essentially your bank promising to pay the landlord if you default on rent. Some landlords prefer automatic bank transfers, which is actually the easiest option for everyone. You set it up once, and the rent is automatically transferred each month. Then there's that agent's fee I mentioned earlier, usually 1 month's rent plus VAT if you used an agent. And don't forget about the cost of setting up utilities, which often requires deposits, especially if you're new to the country. First month's rent is usually due before or on the day you move in. So when you're budgeting for your move, think, Deposit of 1 to 3 months plus first month's rent, plus agent's fee if applicable, plus utilities setup. It adds up quickly. Arnona is Israel's municipal property tax, and as a tenant, you're usually responsible for paying it. The amount varies widely depending on the city and the size and type of property. Tel Aviv and Jerusalem tend to have higher Arnona rates than other cities. A typical two-bedroom apartment might run you anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 shekels every 2 months, though this varies significantly. The good news, many people qualify for Arnona discounts. New immigrants can get significant reductions for their first year. Senior citizens, students, single parents, and people receiving government benefits may also qualify for discounts. You apply for these discounts at your local municipality. Arnona bills typically come every 2 months, and you can pay at the municipality, online, or at post offices. Don't ignore these bills. Unpaid Arnona accumulates interest and can eventually lead to liens on the property, which becomes a headache even though you're just a tenant. Setting up utilities in Israel is generally straightforward, though it requires some bureaucracy. Electricity is provided by the Israel Electric Corporation. You'll need to register the apartment in your name, which requires ID, proof of residence, your rental contract works, and sometimes a deposit. Bills come every 2 months, and you can pay online, at post offices, or through automatic payments. Water services are handled by municipal water corporations, and the setup process is similar to electricity. Water bills usually come quarterly. For internet and phone services, you have several options: Bezik, Hot, Partner, Cellcom, and others. Competition is healthy here, so shop around for deals. Installation usually takes a week or 2, so arrange this as soon as you sign your contract. Most providers offer packages that combine internet, cable TV, and phone services. Israeli law provides certain protections for tenants, and it's worth knowing your rights. Your landlord cannot simply kick you out without cause during your rental period. If you have a signed contract, you have the right to stay for the duration of that contract. If the landlord wants you out, they generally need to wait until the contract ends or have a legal reason, like you not paying rent or causing significant damage. You're entitled to a safe, livable apartment. This means working plumbing, electricity, and basic structural integrity. If there are serious problems that make the apartment unsafe or unlivable, the landlord is obligated to fix them. However, you also have responsibilities. You need to pay rent on time, maintain the apartment in reasonable condition, and follow building rules. You can't sublet without the landlord's permission, and you can't make significant changes to the apartment without approval. If you have disputes with your landlord that you can't resolve through conversation, there are legal options. The rental tribunal, Beit Mishpat Leshirut, handles disputes specifically related to rental agreements. For smaller claims, there's small claims court. Documentation is your friend. Take photos of the apartment's condition when you move in. Keep copies of all communications with your landlord. Save receipts for any repairs you make. If something breaks and the landlord is supposed to fix it, document your requests and their responses. Where you live in Israel will significantly impact your daily experience, and each city and neighborhood has its own character. Tel Aviv is expensive, but offers beach life, vibrant nightlife, and a very international feel. Neighborhoods like Florentine and Neve Tzedek are trendy and artistic. The north of the city tends to be more upscale, while the south is more affordable and increasingly hip. Jerusalem offers a completely different experience. The city is more religious and traditional, prices are somewhat lower than Tel Aviv, and there's an unmatched historical and spiritual atmosphere. Neighborhoods like the German colony, Baca, and Rehavia are popular with English speakers. Haifa is multicultural, quieter than Tel Aviv, and significantly more affordable. It's perfect if you want a more relaxed pace while still having city amenities. The Sharon area, cities like Ra'anana, Herzliya, and Kfar Saba, is popular with families and Anglos. It's suburban, well-maintained, and offers good schools. Consider your commute. Traffic in Israel can be intense, especially going into or out of Tel Aviv during rush hours. Living close to work or near good public transportation can dramatically improve your quality of life. Think about your lifestyle needs too. Do you need to be near a synagogue? Are good restaurants important? Do you need parks for kids? Is being near the beach a priority? Different neighborhoods cater to different lifestyles. Once you've signed the contract and handed over your deposit and first month's rent, it's time to actually move in. Here are some practical tips for those first days. Do a thorough walkthrough with the landlord before you accept the keys. Document everything with photos or video, every crack, every stain, every scratch. This protects you when you move out and the landlord tries to claim you caused damage that was already there. Get everything in writing. Landlord promised to fix something before you move in? Get it in writing. Agreed that you can paint a room? In writing. I can't stress this enough. Verbal agreements are hard to enforce. Meet your neighbors early on. Israeli apartment buildings often have a va'ad bayit, or building committee, and it's worth knowing who's on it. Your neighbors can be an incredible resource for everything from recommending local services to explaining how the building systems work. When it's time to move out, there are steps you can take to maximize the chances of getting your full deposit back. Give proper notice, typically 30 to 60 days depending on what your contract says. Do this in writing. Clean the apartment thoroughly. I mean really thoroughly. Israeli landlords often expect the apartment to be returned in pristine condition. Consider hiring professional cleaners. It's often worth the cost to avoid disputes. Fix any damage you caused. Small nail holes, minor scuffs. Take care of these before the final walkthrough. Do a detailed walkthrough with the landlord, comparing the apartment's current condition to those photos you took when you moved in. This is where that documentation becomes invaluable. Renting in Israel is an adventure, like so many things in this country. It has its quirks, its frustrations, and its pleasant surprises. The market moves fast, the bureaucracy can be thick, and sometimes the cultural differences can be disorienting. But here's the thing. Millions of people rent successfully in Israel, and you can too. The key is to go in informed, protect yourself with proper documentation, communicate clearly with your landlord, and don't be afraid to ask questions or seek help when you need it. The Israeli rental market rewards those who are prepared and decisive. Do your research, know your budget, understand your rights, and be ready to move quickly when you find the right place. And remember, your first apartment in Israel doesn't have to be perfect. It's just the start of your journey. Whether you end up in a modern high-rise in Tel Aviv, a historic stone apartment in Jerusalem, or a suburban flat with a garden, you're about to experience something unique. Renting in Israel is more than just finding shelter. It's about finding your place in this dynamic, challenging, and ultimately rewarding country. Welcome home, and Bahatzlaka. Good luck with your search.